Morning, this is Jen, and today I want to read to you, and it's a very short little section. It's about almost 3 pages, and it's a pretty interesting little conversation between someone called BAMBABEF and WANG, where one of these people states that people need to be deceived in order for them to do the right thing. And the other one states that you can be honest with people and they'll still do the right thing. So I've made this little PowerPoint and I'll read to you what it says. So this is from Voltaire's Philosophical Dictionary, and I'm reading the section on fraud. Should pious frauds be practiced on the people? And it's kind of a funny little argument. BAMBABEF is called a fakir, F-A-K-I-R. Kind of sounds like another word, but that's the word in the book. So I'm just going to read through here, and it's pretty interesting little conversation. So it starts with fraud, and these are correct spellings. Fraud. Should pious frauds be practiced on the people? One day the fakir BAMBABEF met with one of his disciples of Confucius, whom we call Confucius. And this disciple's name was Wang. And BAMBABEF maintained that the people need to be deceived, and Wang claimed that we should never deceive anybody, and here is an abstract of their debate. BAMBABEF: we must imitate the Supreme Being, who does not show us things as they are. He makes the sun appear to us as if it has a diameter of 2 or 3 feet, although this star is 1,000,000 times bigger than the earth. He makes us see that the moon and the stars attach to one and the same blue background, whereas they are at different distances. He wants a square tower to look round in a distance. He wants fire to seem hot to us, although it is neither hot nor cold. In short, he surrounds us with errors appropriate for our nature. Wang: what you call an error isn't one. The sun, placed as it is millions of lists, which is 124 paces, beyond our globe, is not the one we see. We really perceive and can only perceive the sun that is painted on our retina at a fixed angle. Our eyes were not given to us to know dimensions and distances. Other aids and other operations are needed to know them. BAMBABEF appeared to be very surprised by this remark. Wang, who was very patient, and explained to him the theory of optics, and BAMBABEF, who was no fool, yielded to the demonstrations of Confucius's disciple. Then he resumed the debate in these terms. BAMBABEF: if God does not deceive us by means of our senses, as I believed, you must at least admit that doctors always deceive children, for their good. They tell them that they are giving them sugar, and really give them rhubarb, so I, a fakir, may deceive the people who are as ignorant as children. Wang: I have 2 sons, and I have never deceived. When they were ill, I told them, here is a very bitter medicine. You must have the courage to take it. It will harm you if it were sweet. I have never allowed their governesses and their tutors to make them afraid of spirits, ghosts, goblins, or sorcerers. In this way, I have made them brave and wise young citizens. BAMBABEF: the people are not born in such happy circumstances as your family. All men resemble each other. They are born with the same dispositions. It is the fakirs who corrupt the nature of men. BAMBABEF: I admit that we teach them errors, but it is for their own good. We make them believe that if they don't buy our consecrated nails, if they don't expiate their sins by giving us money, they'll become post horses, dogs, or lizards in another life. That frightens them, and they become well behaved. Wang: don't you see that you pervert these poor people? Among them are many more rational beings than is realized, who laugh at your nails, your miracles, and your superstitions, who know perfectly well that they aren't going to be changed into lizards or post horses. What happens? They have sense enough to see that you are preaching them an impertinent religion, but they don't have enough to raise themselves to a pure religion free from superstition like ours. Their passions make them believe that there is no religion because the only one they are taught is ridiculous. You become guilty of all the vices into which they plunge. BAMBABEF. Not at all, for we do teach them only good morals. WANG. Oh, you'd be stoned by the people if you taught them impure morals. Men are so made that they are quite willing to do evil, but they don't want it to be preached to them. A wise morality should simply not be mingled with absurd fables, because you're impostors with which you could dispense weaken the morality you are obliged to teach. BAMBABEF. Come, you believe that the people can be taught the truth without sustaining it with fables? WANG. I believe it firmly. The educated people are of the same stuff as our tailors, our weavers, and our laborers. They adore a God who is creator, remunerator, and avenger. They sully their worship neither by absurd systems nor by extravagant ceremonies. And there are far fewer crimes amid the literate than among the people. Why not deign to instruct our workers as we instruct our educated people? You'd be committing a great folly. You might as well wish them to be equally polite or to be legal experts. It's neither possible nor decent. There must be white bread for the masters and whole meal for the servants. WANG. I admit that all men should not be equally educated, but there are things that all must be. It's necessary for everybody to be just. And the surest way to instill justice in all men is to instill them with religion without superstition. BAMBABEF. That's a fine project, but it's impracticable. Do you think that it's enough for men to believe in a God who punishes and rewards? You told me that it often happens that the cleverest among the people rise up against my fables. They'll rise up against your truth. They'll say, who guarantees that God punishes and rewards? Where's the proof? What's your mission? What miracle have you performed that I should believe you? They'll laugh at you much more than at me. WANG. That's where you're wrong. You imagine that men will shake off the yoke of an idea that is honest, convincing, useful to everybody, an idea that is in harmony with human reason, because they reject things that are dishonest, absurd, useless, dangerous, that make good sense shudder. The people are quite disposed to believe their magistrates. When their magistrates offer them only a reasonable belief, they willingly embrace it. We need no prodigies to believe in a just God who reads the heart of man. This idea is too natural to be opposed. It's not necessary to explain exactly how God will punish and reward. It's enough to believe in his justice. I assure you that I have seen entire cities which had practically no other dogmas, and they were those in which I saw the most virtue. BAMBABEF. Take care. You will find in those cities philosophers who will deny both punishment and rewards. WANG. You must admit that these philosophers will deny your inventions even more strongly, so that won't be any benefit to you. Should there be any philosophers who don't agree with my principles, they will be good men nonetheless. They will nonetheless cultivate virtue, which should be embraced for love, not out of fear. Moreover, I'll maintain that no philosopher will ever be sure that Providence doesn't reserve punishment for the wicked and rewards for those who are good. For if they ask me, who told me that God punishes, I'll ask them, who told them that God doesn't punish? In a word, I maintain that the philosophers, far from contradicting me, will help me. Do you want to be a philosopher? Willingly, but don't tell the Fockers. So basically they're saying that religion rolls out of fear, and that people use religion and fear to get people to behave in the way that they think that they should behave. Whereas Wang is saying that people don't need religion or fear or any of their dogmas, that they need good moral principles, and they need to be taught just things to be just. And not every man wants the same level of education. Some men may want to be legal scholars, which requires a lot of education, and some men just may want to be cart builders, or horse stablemen. They want to work with horses or something. So not every man wants the same education. So he's not saying that they can't have the same education. They're saying that not every man wants to be educated in the same way. So I thought this was a really interesting little conversation in here. Wang continues to assert that people need to be taught principles or philosophies, and if they're good philosophers, then they'll be good men. And so even the ones that maybe are not such good philosophers, they'll still be good people. And that people, maybe they don't want to let go of this idea that God punishes, and that's why they should behave. And so Wang is saying, well, there's no proof that he doesn't punish. So that argument is just, it's unreasonable to argue that that men cannot behave if they're not in fear constantly of God's wrath and of God's punishment. So if you want to get this book, I think I got it off of Amazon. It's by Penguin Classics. It's called Voltaire, Philosophical Dictionary. It's really easy to read, and it's got a lot of good stuff in it, a lot of good points. And there you have it. So you guys like, share, subscribe, and I'll be making lots more videos.